Hey everyone, I'm Eggs over here, and I'm here to review The Flash's 100th episode, which is Season 5, Episode 8, titled What's Past is Prologue. So I've actually been waiting a couple of days to review this episode, because I kind of wanted to get all my thoughts together on it, but there'll be spoilers for the episode from this point on, like proper full spoilers. So, on first watch of this episode, I thought I enjoyed it. I was like, okay, that was pretty good. It was enjoyable. It had just the right amount of nostalgia. It had, for seasons 1 and 2, it had just the right amount of pretty much everything I thought, except for it could use more zoom. That was kind of my only serious complaint with it, and that most of the cicada stuff kind of fell flat, which has been for most of the season, so I wasn't surprised about that. But the more I thought about it, the more the episode started to kind of collapse on itself, and the more I realized this episode kind of is just a big, inconsistent mess with plot holes, inconsistent writing. Just generally, the more I think about it, the less I have to like about the episode, or the less I like about the episode. So I'll just do a quick rundown of the plot. So Nora and Barry travel back in time because they need to create a device that can basically dampen the powers on Cicada's dagger. So they go throughout time. They need to get a piece of Savitar's suit. They need to get the device that zoomed steal Barry's speed. And they need to get something that was, I forget, but it was something to do with the pipeline when the pipeline went off and Ronnie died and all that. And they need something to do it then. So, to use this, they need to travel throughout the three main time points in the show, which is Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. And so, it was the whole time we saw a lot of different episodes from the point of view of Barry and Nora. We saw the Season 1 part before the part goes off from their point of view. We saw Season 2, Episode 18 from their point of view, and we saw Season 2, Episode 17 from their point of view. I know, it's actually crazy. I didn't think about that. The Season 1 flashbacks and the Season 2 flashbacks were more or less one episode apart in universe, because one of them was about Barry going back in time. It gets kind of timey-wimey, but that's actually kind of weird to think about it. But anyway, I saw once or twice, I saw somebody on Twitter mention this, and I saw an article online mention this, that this episode was wasted, and it was more or less a glorified clip show with just Barry and Nora re-watching old events on the show. And at first I was like, I don't know about that. But the more I thought about it, yeah, that's kind of what this episode was. It was a glorified clip show. And there wasn't much substance to the times that they visited the past. The only time that really, really felt serious was when Zoom shows back up. Teddy Sears was playing him. But his scene was so brief. It was wasted. We haven't seen Teddy Sears since the Season 2 final. He's by far my favorite character on this entire show, him as Hunter Zolomon, and I was so excited when I heard he was coming back. And the promo even kind of implied that we will be getting Eobard Thawne, Savitar, and Hunter Zolomon all interacting with Barry in a pretty big way, to make up because it's the 100th episode, all these characters coming back. That's not what it was at all. He was in the episode with new scenes for about, I want to say 30 to 40 seconds. He had maybe 4 lines of dialogue, and that was it. Completely wasted. I actually saw people say that because he was so briefly used, a lot of people thought that it was just repurposed footage from Season 2 that they edited together to make it look like he was talking to Barry and Nora. And it kind of feels like that. That's how little he was in the episode. That honestly, if you didn't know he was on set filming for this episode, you would genuinely think they just reused footage from Season 2 and edited it into cleverly edited it. But there's another huge problem with the Zoom scene. You see, Zoom chases Barry and Nora, and they run into the Speed Force, and Zoom chases them into the Speed Force too. At which point, a Time Wraith grabs Zoom and pulls him out of the Speed Force. This is all fine, but the more you think about it, the more it kind of collapses in itself, because there's 3 things that could have happened here. One is that it was a time remnant, and the Time Wraith killed him, which that's probably the most likely one. Zoom loved his time rates, or Zoom loved his time remnants, and I couldn't see it really being any other way that this could have went down. Number 2 is the time rate just pulled him out of the timeline and plucked him back to where he was before. But that wouldn't help either, because that would change the timeline. Because now Zoom would know that there's another speedster out there called Nora. Why wouldn't he have brought that up before? And number 3 is that the time rate just killed, that was the real Zoom, and the time rate killed Zoom right then and there. Which again, that would have changed the timeline colossally. That couldn't have happened. There is obviously a fourth one where Zoom defeated the time rate or whatever, but then again, that still changes the timeline, because that means that Zoom would have known about Nora. It just doesn't work. So the most likely one is that was a time rate, or it was a time remnant, sorry, I keep getting confused, and the time rate killed him. Which, that's likely, it's probably happened. And if they explain that to us in the episode, this wouldn't have been a problem. But they didn't explain it to us. They leave it completely open-ended. And that's a huge problem. This is never brought up again throughout the rest of the episode. And yes, a show can do showing and not telling very well, but it needs to be done well for it to work. It was not done well here. It was done terribly here, and it was just a case of the writers seemingly forgetting to explain it, or that there were scenes cut and they forgot to explain how it happened. And it just kind of falls in on itself. And there's more of this in the episode. At one point, when Barry's in the past, he sees Harry from season 2, or to Harrison Wells. And Harrison Wells is about to destroy one of the devices that Barry needs. So he's about to snap it in half. And Barry reaches out and says, stop. And when he reaches to say stop, he shows the flash ring, or at least the flash ring is visible on his hand. And the camera does a good kind of point of showing that this is important. The way the camera is leveled is on Barry's ring, and it makes it obvious that Harry definitely notices the ring. And this should be a huge thing. This should be a thing where either he brings it up or he brings up somebody else. Nope, this is another thing that isn't mentioned again throughout the rest of the episode. And yeah, they could have done this well if the whole scene went better, but it didn't. And so it takes away from the episode. And a highlight of the episode, however, was Tom Kavanagh as Eobard Thawne. During the parts where they went back to, I believe it was a timeline around season 1, episode 11 or episode 12, the one with Hartley Rathaway. They go back to the same moment in season 2, episode 17, which is flashback. And this is when I started to realize that this episode has the exact same plot as flashback. It involves Barry going back in time to one of his old villains in order to get help to defeat the new villain. And it's the exact same plot, it's just flashback did it a lot better than this episode. This also brings up another problem where we barely actually saw any new character or any recurring characters. Most of the characters that returned were done in clips or reused footage. The only times we actually saw a new actor come back, or a recurring actor come back, was Teddy Sears, John Wesley Shipp, and Nora's actress, Nora Allen. They were the only ones who actually returned, and all of them were very brief. They were like 30 seconds each. I'm sorry, I know it feels like I'm just kind of ripping on the episode, but there's more I want to get through that was bad. Mainly the cicada stuff towards the end of the episode. When you see how the cicada stuff goes down, it kind of renders what happens in the flashbacks it makes it so that you probably won't want to rewatch this episode, because you'll know that everything Barry and Nora does in the past isn't going to matter, because Cicada they'll just forget about the device the first time they use it, and it won't even work the first time they use it. Cicada calls his dagger back immediately. Why Cisco didn't breach it to a different Earth, I've got no idea. But basically, Cicada got around it so easily, they forget they even have the device, so they don't try and use it a second time, and it just makes everything that happens in the flashbacks useless and pointless, and it feels like, oh, we could do this as a good way to get characters coming back or to show clips for the 100th episode, but it doesn't actually further the plot at all. At least Arrow's 100th kind of furthered the plot, and it also was meaningful. The interactions Oliver had in that other world were meaningful. The interactions Barry and Nora had here didn't matter for shit. The only interaction that did matter was Nora and Eobard Thawne, which I'm assuming when Nora interacts with Eobard in the past, that is when Eobard first becomes aware of her existence. And that leads to them in the future knowing each other. Or that leads to him in the future knowing Nora when she first shows up on his doorstep in the prison. We did get 2 references to Danica Williams, who is the Flash in the Batman Beyond time, and Jesse Chambers. Jesse Chambers is actually Jesse Quick, which is kind of cool that that in the future Jessica Quick goes by the name Jesse Chambers, because it would make sense. Why would she call herself Jesse Quick when Jesse Quick is technically her real name? It's the name she goes by in this universe, just not as her superhero name. She just goes by that name in general, so it would make sense for her to switch that up in the future. And it's cool that Harry knows that she's Jesse Chambers in the future, or Harrison Wells, or Eobard Thawne. Sorry, getting confused. So many Harrys. But yeah, I feel like this review might have been kind of a mess. I feel like it was kind of just me ripping on the episode and not really giving any good points. I think what I liked about it here. It was nice to get clarification that Caitlin or Killer Frost isn't affected by Cicada's dagger, that she's not a meta. I don't think she should have been the one to beat Cicada at the end of the episode. I feel like it really should have been more Barry and Nora, because this was a celebratory 100th episode of their characters, and well, of Barry's character. I feel like Cicada shouldn't have got away. I feel like the device should have worked, and they should have captured Cicada, then let him escape in episode 10 or whatever, due to something that happens that isn't under Flash Team's or Team Flash's control, because the way it happened here makes it seem like what they did in this episode didn't matter at all, because it didn't. Overall, I really do feel like this was a disappointing episode. While watching it for the first time, you feel happy. You're like, oh yeah, I remember all this. This was all great. It's the more you think about it, the more it collapses in itself, and the more it becomes a disappointing episode. It is more enjoyable than most of the other episodes this season, but it should have been more than just enjoyable. It's the 100th episode. This should have been one of the top 10 Flash episodes of all time easily if it had been done well, but it wasn't. And so I think this episode deserves a 6.5 out of 10. But thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you, and have a great day.